Okay, so I'll welcome everybody to the Parish Council meeting this evening. It's a relatively straightforward meeting, despite the fact that we haven't actually met since July. On the agenda tonight, we're going to consider an offer to locate clothing banks in the village, looking at whether we're going to have a tree survey to protect some trees. The trees in the conservation area and those that have got tree preservation orders on them are already protected. So we just want to look around and see if there are any others that need protecting. Have a quick look at whether any equipment at the fish ponds needs any action from us to repair it. To consider an offer of a grant for a village facility, a request from the preschool to extend their hours, and to an offer for regular cleaning of the bus shelves. I think that's most of the issues. So with that done, I'll see if there's anyone raise any points. Public meeting.
The gas main, I know it's not more, that has been redirected, it's connected now, whether it's operational, I don't know. And the handrail has been destroyed by a motorist. It's all got temporary, they're doing something with it, basically.
Yeah, by the navvy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I got something.
Yeah. We don't have a finish date, I suppose, do we?
I don't know, I'm just driving past it.
Yeah.
How it's getting on.
Yeah.
It's all connected up now. They bypass, wherever they were digging, they're not digging anymore, they've gone past.
Yeah.
Come back.
Okay.
I think
Is this the final solution? No,
I hope so.
which is what we were supposed to be doing.
Yeah, bypass, whether it was in the road up, I'll think I'm round it back.
Good. Right, there's nothing else presumably, so we'll go into the meeting itself. I've had apologies from Dave Hines and John Keane, and I think otherwise, yeah, right, yes. Are there any declarations of interest in any of the items?
Payment schedule.
The payment schedule, yeah, okay.
And
as well. Declaration of interest in the payment schedule.
apologies from Councillor Ward.
That's fine. We're very appreciative actually that more than one of you turns up at the meetings, given your number of parishes you've got to look after. So very much welcome. Can we agree the minutes of the meeting of the 4th of July,
Yes,
our last meeting, as accurate? I wasn't there.
Right, as I check, yes.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't there.
So
I propose.
you propose it. You were there? You okay? Were you there, Kay? Are you happy with it?
Yeah.
Because it's got to be the three of you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fine, that's unanimous. So we turn now to the clerk's report. There's a separate item on the streetlights, which we can talk about when we get to it. Are there any items?
I dropped one through your letterbox.
Yeah. Are there any points in the first section up to number 12 that anyone has got?
Yes, point 8.
Yeah.
The issues that we raised with planning enforcement. 12 Shepperton. Apparently all the neighbours have complained to the council about it being used as a gym. But planning enforcement say there's not enough evidence. It's rather strange.
Yeah, I mean, I did actually get, because I also, on behalf of some of the residents, did put in a sports either, I would copy on the response. And they said there was no evidence that it was being used as a commercial gym. And noise is actually not a planning matter. It's an environmental area, so they'd have to make a complaint about noise. But they have sent a formal closure letter out, both to any residents who complained, and as I say, I got a copy of that. Yeah.
Sorry, didn't understand. Formal closure as well.
There was a formal closure. There was an enforcement, a complaint to enforcement.
Yeah.
About the use of the gym at 12 Shepperton Close on a commercial basis. And also a complaint about the noise that was generated. Thomas Halsey, who's one of the enforcement officers, has now issued a closure notice on that enforcement complaint, saying that there is insufficient evidence.
Right, okay, so closure notice on the complaint, not on the.
Yeah, okay. And I'm just basically drawing, for the record, making the point that a complaint about noise is not a planning issue. It's actually got to make that to, I think, environmental health. Yes, that's quite correct. I think Ian had
In
something.
point 6, it says Leo Hawke is put in, Steve's put in Castlethorpe Parish, not actually Castlethorpe Parish, is it?
Oh,
No,
no,
it's
it's,
not.
sorry, it's should be.
Castlethorpe.
Sorry about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to pick
The chances of getting away with planting anything in Castlefield.
Yeah, no chance.
Yeah. And I think, Steve, you had something you wanted to raise.
Yeah, RTM will be cutting village hedges, number 10.
Yeah.
Now we need to ask residents of Station Road to remove their cars for that day. It's next Tuesday.
Okay.
So just draw your attention to that.
So do you want a sign putting that?
Yeah, I mean, a sign would be good, Facebook, and I think last year I actually knocked up some Billy Doos and dropped them through that door.
Are you able to do that, Steve?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah. As long as your dog doesn't eat them before you get them through the letterbox.
Oh, no, I was thinking to drop them off.
Dogs only eat homework.
Yeah. Just as a general point, you've seen number 11. A resident contacted me about parking down there, asking if some of the spaces could be allocated. And I pointed out you couldn't because it is public highway. But we did, in the exchange of emails, we did discuss the possibility of getting parking permits, say 1 per house, and then having, there's 22 spaces and 14 houses. So you could mark off an area for 14. Which will be restricted to permit holders only, give each house a permit, and then leave the rest would have to be open. There's no way of controlling it. You can't mark it out because it's gravel. So I've put that request in to see if it's possible, and it's been forwarded through to the parking team who are responsible for it. If they say it is possible, then I would expect to come back and to do a survey of those 14 residents to see if that was something they wanted us to proceed with. And obviously, knowing Milton Keynes Council, there will be a cost. So the parish council will then also have to consider whether it regards that cost as reasonable.
So I missed the first bit of that. Where are we talking about?
The parking area in Station Road.
The station road, okay.
Yeah. I think that's everything. Okay. And the second part, that these are just long-term actions, which I have to say aren't progressing and certainly won't have done over the summer break. But
I'm still waiting for the people to come back to me on getting the lock. You're having a job to get 2 locks in the same combination. What option I want to do is get the chain and the combination lock for Jeffers and leave John's as it is at the moment.
Okay, yeah,
All right.
yeah.
okay.
And one of my sort thoughts there were is either side, first 2 houses either side, by the top, is give them the combination number. So if the ambulance has to come in the right time, somebody's got the number to.
Yeah, and
Obviously, I think it's out of it, yeah.
and myself, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're going to go down the swings.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're talking about fish ponds or
Fish
sports
ponds.
ground? Fish ponds.
Yeah, but both, if I could have a combination to both of them, then.
Okay. Good, thank you very much, Ian.
Yeah.
Right. In that case, ward councillors, we have an agenda item in case there is anything that you would like to report on.
Nothing that for me that won't come up in the agenda.
Okay.
No, I don't think so, no. Obviously, we didn't have a full council meeting in summer, so nothing to report on that either.
Okay, thank you. Update on Carrington Close. I have sent you all, Ian, I put it through your letterbox some time ago. And there is a note which you should have, which came out last week, the 31st, whatever that was, Wednesday. I mean, basically, we've been having a way at planning because they were being very secretive almost about the actions that they were taking. They just said they were actively liaising. What I think has actually happened is that they didn't do anything for a long time. And then they finally got themselves in gear probably about a month ago and are now trying desperately to backpedal and don't want to admit to us that they've done it. But having said that, and I'd like to particularly record my thanks to Councillor Bowler for his email to the head of planning as well. I think they are now on side with us. They are working with legal. They have written to, as the note from John Palmer, which is in your pack, says, they have written to Stonewater and said that what they're doing is in breach of the S106 agreement. And Stonewater have replied, I think, in the Spanish qua. So apparently Milton Keynes have now written back and spelt out why they are in breach. I haven't heard any more, but I think that was the state of play as of the 31st of August. My intention is to, and I've been put back to Joe Payne, who's the liaison officer, and it would be my intention to chase her again in about a week or so's time. So I think that is where we are. Factually, and just to remind everyone, the S106 agreement says there should be 6 affordable houses, 2 social rent houses, which is a lower level of rent, and 2 shared ownership. Stonewater have advertised 12 shared ownership, of which 10 of them have been reserved. And to find out what reserved meant, I actually tried to buy one of them myself and went through the system. And basically, you have to go through a help agent first of all to verify that you're eligible. And normally, but I'm not sure in this case, but normally it is the local housing authority. So it normally be Milton Keynes Council to assess eligibility. Once you've done that, you then have to get your own finances in order for that, and have a mortgage offer for the money you want to put forward. And then when all of that's sorted out, you then put a £500 deposit down. And as I wrote to John Palmer, you know, offer acceptance consideration is a contract. So there is a contract there. And so I believe that Stonewater are already in breach, at which point I've really been strongly making to planning. And I'm hoping that they've taken that on. But there we are, that's where we are on this.
And well, I did have a word with you on it, but what I'd like to know is how, I mean, we've got certain young people in the village that are earning money and desperate to find place in the village, is how, I know we haven't got a call like we had on the first part of Thrupp Close, but we've got no input at all, have we, of how these social houses?
No, we don't. I mean, I have to say, even with Thrupp Close, we didn't really have very much influence.
At the beginning we did.
Yeah, well, what it was, yes, I mean, it may have changed it. What it was we were asked to verify that the applicant had a strong connection to the village. Actually, and I don't know if any of you looked at the housing, there's a fact sheet that came out from the housing allocations policy. And it does say that in the new policy, I'll just read it because I happen to have it up actually coincidentally. It says that key changes include priority consideration for people with a strong local connection to the area. So it is actually one of the things that people ought to have, even in the allocation policy of Milton Keynes Council. Obviously, as well as that, we intended when we wrote the neighbourhood plan for them to be an opportunity for people to buy houses on the open market, and that's what we expected. I'm sorry, Kay, did you have your hand up?
I did. I'm still really concerned about the pace that this is going, and I do realise, Phil, that you're doing lots. But maybe we could chase Joe before a couple of weeks. It's you know, they've taken deposits for houses that they're not supposed to be putting on the market. They're just doing exactly what they want. And the thing that worries me is not just for the village, that the fact that there are people who could use those houses, who could downsize, young couples, or people who don't want to live with mum and dad anymore and actually want a house to actually buy, which is what Stonewater said in the first place. And they are just doing exactly what they want. They're riding roughshod over our plan, over what Milton Keynes Council's rules are. And I just feel that they are doing, like I said, exactly what they want. And somebody's got to stop them. It sets a precedence, not just for here, but for other villages, because they're in the same place, and they'll just use Castlethorpe and go, well, actually, they got 100% of whatever they wanted there, so let's go back. And I just, and the fact that Milton Keynes Council won't even meet with us, I find, you know, they're supposed to work for the people of Milton Keynes, and no offence, guys, and they refuse to actually have a meeting with us about it. Why? Surely we have the right to talk to them face to face about this and express our concerns. Because emails flying back and forward, back and forward, back and forward, it doesn't always mean that there's no two-way conversation then.
Yeah.
I want it.
Well, I mean, I have had conversations, not with John Palmer, but with Joe Payne on this, and I have explained the point of view. I mean, I think they're trying to avoid the meeting, partly because they probably do regard some of the exchanges that they're having with Stonewater as being legally privileged, and they don't want those to come out wider. But as you know, I did ask them for a meeting, and John Palmer did say he did not see any point in it. What is important to remember on this is that the parish council has no standing. Okay, we're not party to the S106 agreement, and I did actually put in one of the emails. You know, we also need to revisit whether we should have been. And John Palmer did a very quick, by the way, it's not possible for parish councils to be party to an S106 agreement. That is not correct, because, as Ian has pointed out, we were party to the Thrupp Close S106. And as far as I'm aware, the law on this has not changed since, you know, since for
20 odd years.
Yeah. So there is that to pick up. The second point is that Milton Keynes has got a power to do something about this. It doesn't have a duty. So in other words, it doesn't have to do it. So we really do need, I'm afraid, to do our best by persuasion on this. And there is the implicit, I mean, I'm talking at a neighbourhood planning conference in October, and if this isn't resolved, I will make clear I imagine there'll be a number of Milton Keynes local parish councils there. I will make it clear, you know, you can't trust Milton Keynes Council to hold up their end.
I'm not asking them to get, I'm not asking us to get shirty with them. I just want answers. I want to know why they're letting this happen.
Well, they're not now, okay? They're not. They have written, that's what I said, and it's what is in the update that is in your pack, if you read that. That is where we are.
So why, the first time that Milton Keynes Council wrote to Stonewater, they should have listed exactly how they were breaching that agreement.
They should
but
have.
Obviously didn't. And it's just like, let's waste a bit of time here. Let's let this run on, because then we'll just fill all those houses up and it'll be too late. And if I just feel that, I mean, I know, like you said, okay, we don't, but we are representative of the village, and we need to look after the villagers here. And to do that, we need to make sure that there is some housing in the village. That means they don't have to move out when they want to buy a house. And at the moment, I just feel that it's just going so slowly that Stonewater will do exactly what they want unless they are stopped. And
well,
I don't see how
you're pushing at an open door here. We have gone, I think, I mean, I don't know if George would like to comment at the moment, but we have gone, I think, as far as we can. There is almost, short of starting into judicial reviews and all the rest of it, which is unbelievably expensive, there is no more that we can do on
But
this.
what I'm
There
asking
is,
is maybe it could
there
be
is
done
a
bit
there is a
quicker,
threat.
chasing.
Well, okay, I'll chase them next week. I mean, it is only the 31st that they sent it through before. I mean, as I think I put in one of my notes, I mean, I'm pretty certain that what happened was it was with planning right the way through until I think it was April of this year, when they had legal advice about a case of Weald District Council,
Yeah.
funnily enough, against Stonewall.
Yeah.
That was one. It isn't actually quite the same thing, but it is fairly close. It's to do with the the standing of an S106 order. They then passed it to enforcement. Enforcement only act if it is within the powers of the 1986 Town and Country Planning Act, or whatever the year is. And they said it's not, and S106 doesn't fall within that scope. So they then passed it to legal. And I think as it's gone through Milton Keynes Council, it has lost momentum. And furthermore, I suspect that it wasn't until I wrote to them and said, by the way, is MKC Housing aiding and abetting on this, that they suddenly wrapped them into the loop, because they shouldn't be putting these people forward for these properties. It's in breach of the S106 agreement done by another part of MKC, the planning department. So, yeah, that is where it is.
Put a rocket underneath them and actually realise that Stonewall, and they are miles ahead of where they said they would be. They said these houses would be available in the autumn.
Christmas time.
Yeah.
Well, it's winter.
November, December, and they're already moving people in.
Well,
And it's
I
like
mean,
they're going
let's
ahead of
be
themselves to get it
clear.
done.
There are 5 houses which are ready for occupation, of which 2 are definitely in occupation. And there is 1 more which I've seen movement, I've seen things on windowsills, I've seen a light on today when I walk down. I do a regular inspection of this, and 2 which are definitely not. In fact, 1 still had a workman in it today. If you look at the rest of the site, there is 1 strip of houses, which I think is on the Fox Cover side, which is reasonably well advanced, and I think will probably, I mean, I'm not a builder, but I would guess would probably become available in the next couple of months. And the rest of the site looks to me as if it's quite a way off, probably the end of the year or even the beginning of next year. I don't know if anyone's got better building knowledge than me, but that's the way it looks
That's
to
why
me.
I see it when I went down there.
Yeah. So, when they say available winter, well, sort of,
But what I'm saying,
Anyway,
they're miles
look.
ahead of where they should be. I look at dread on your face when Kay wants to talk about Stonewall.
Just,
Okay.
just one more thing on this
Yeah.
down there is, I've been around there and obviously you've seen 2 people moved in. What suddenly threw at me the other day, and I don't know, they know anything or something, you're saying they're shared ownership, right? So you say you would try to apply. So you put your deposit down, etc. There's nothing wrong with you buying it and then rent it out to somebody else, is there?
Yeah.
And that's the problem, because somebody, the other weekend, somebody come to me because they were walking down the drive, and there they are, whizzing up and down John Alge's drive, and whizzing back in the site in a Range Rover and that. So,
There is actually, because it's a shared ownership, you have to get the other owner to agree to it, which would be Stonewater.
Yeah. Anyway, shall we move on? Because this is, George, yes.
Sorry, Chair. I sit on the planning committee, and we had a meeting last week, and I called John after the meeting, and again, after my email, made him very sure that he was aware that this is not going to go away. One of the problems that he has, and that this body will have if it sort of progresses further, is that the perception of this amongst a lot of people will be 100% social housing. That's great.
Yeah.
And so, the point that I made very clearly to him, both in my email and again the other day, was exactly the point you made, that, the village needs to secure properties for itself. But one of the problems that we have with dealing with it is it's not a planning issue. It would come down to an actual court case on breach of contract. And the question you would then have to ask is, well, what would the remedy to that breach of contract be? Because the courts are unlikely to actually start signing orders to evict tenants. So it would then be some sort of compensatory amount, which wouldn't actually help what we want to achieve anyway. And who would that go to? Probably to Milton Council, Milton Keynes Council, so it wouldn't even come to Castlethorpe.
So that's what happened to Stonewater Dale, it's going to fill them up and then we can't evict
No,
them.
well-
So the issue is quite difficult. They are talking to Stonewater. And yeah, the main thing that we've done is made it very clear well in advance that the planning department will not be allowed to just sweep this under the carpet.
Yeah.
And that's what they won't like, is not being able to sweep under the carpet. So hopefully they will try and avoid the fuss that we will cause if it gets done wrong.
Yeah. Okay, I think we ought to stop this. We all. So thank you all very much for that. The streetlight upgrade, I've also put a little document in your packs that Chris Hales, who's the I'd say he's the head of the street lighting team. I think he is the street lighting team. But for people who are watching on the live stream, basically all the lanterns that they could get access to have now been replaced with heritage style lanterns. There are some they can't get to because of hedges. And Steve and I have walked around these, and some of those hedges do actually, but you know, it turns out they were on the public the public highway, so they're owned by MKC. But of course, we've taken that contract over. So, despite the fact that Milton Keynes Council hasn't cut them in the last 25 years, it now comes down to us to actually have to cut them back, but which RTL will do.
Whereabouts is this?
There's one in front, they're both in front. Yeah. There's one by the gate, 5 bar gate going into Castlefield, and the other one down, the other, if you go straight and then right and left.
Yeah, back at Wellington Road. So we'll get that done. We've had some questions about the fact that there are new lampposts put up next to existing ones. Particularly there's one in the Chequers, or it might even be 2 in the Chequers, and that is because the old lamppost is not suitable. One of them is made of concrete, for example, which would look wonderful with a heritage style lantern on top of them. So they put up a new post, and they'll remove the other when power switched across. Yeah, we've had an argument with them, if you remember, at the last meeting about whether they were going to mount some of them on telegraph poles. I did persuade them right at the outset that Bullington End Road was a complete no-no, so they have committed to going on to standalone posts in Bullington End Road. Steve and I had a meeting with the highways team leader called Mark MacDonald in Station Road, and we walked that. 2 of the posts right down in the parking area, we have agreed that it makes sense for them to stay on the telegraph poles, because otherwise a new post is going to, frankly, just be another hazard for parking.
Yeah.
But there are 2 more between the cattle grid and the entrance to the Chequers, which are on poles, and they have agreed that they will go on posts, providing it is not excessively expensive. The excessively expensive is if they had, for example, to dig up the road to take power from the other side of the road to get to it. That would be expensive, but I personally think that is a bit unlikely, but anyway. And he says that he's got a meeting to sort that out pretty much this week, I think.
The only one that concerns me is at Bullington Road, where the application for my mother's old place is. That's on the pole there. Where will they put the pole, and where's he going to put his entrance?
Yeah.
That's what
Well,
we're going to watch on that one.
Yeah. Well, no, Milton Keynes Council, they'll put it slap bang in the middle of where they're going to put the entrance, and then charge them to move it. Yeah, I mean, in fact, we did point out that there was a planning application with an entrance there when we walked it. So that's all going along. When it's all finished, then they will come along and paint them all black, so they will all be black, and they also put the numbers on them, you know, like South Street that is, isn't it? Station Road, SR4 or something, will be Station Road, lamppost number 4, so you can report bulbs out and so on. Okay. Good. Planning applications then, that's okay. I'm slightly bemused by 5.1 because I thought I saw that one had been approved.
It has.
It has.
I sent an email around knowing that the date was before our next meeting today. And I asked parish councillors if they would likely have any objection if they need an EGM.
All right, that's yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't quite.
Yeah. So that's all, and I think the expiry date's reached. I'm not sure whether there's a decision yet.
Yeah, I think I've seen it. No objection mark on the. I got one of
There
the
probably is.
round robin one. So 5.2 is a reduction. This is Carrollwood, isn't it? Just a reduction of the height of the of some of the trees. Those are very big trees, actually. Yeah. Anyone got any objection to any of that? No. And 5.3 is the non-material amendment in number 4 Maltings Court, which is as you go in, it is the one in the far right corner.
Far left.
Right. As you go in.
But Maltings Court, you sure?
Yeah.
Left.
Now, I'll tell you why I know that, because I went round today to try and understand it, because I couldn't work out what was happening from the drawings. I went round to have a look, and I went to Carrington Close as well. And then I got a phone call from the householder saying, "I hear you've been looking round." So the jungle drums were beating, and he invited me round, and I had a look and explained what he was doing. And I'm happy to take anyone through it if you've got any questions. But I personally am very happy with what he's doing. Yes, this is the non-material amendment. He's just moving the site of the heat pump round a bit and converting a side door, which they don't really use, into a window.
Makes the house more sustainable, so it's all good with me.
Yeah, okay. And then the last one is actually Leo and Brendan Barkhausen. Brendan is trying to sort out something with his boundary and the planning permission that he's got to put an extension at the back, which was granted. But there's a problem with the plans as to where his garage is, and this is just to rectify that. Again, I personally have no problem with that. Anyone else? No objection. Right. Just looking then at section 6 as a whole, would anyone like to comment on any of those in section 6?
Well, 6.2, there's 3 more gone down box covered with these big bungalow things.
Yeah.
Last fortnight, which are not supposed to be going down.
There's a limit on the bridge, there's a sign which
Yeah,
says what the weight
no, no
limit is,
difference,
so
mate.
we shouldn't be taking over that.
Darren, sorry.
I've chased it a couple of times with people. I've not got much response from people in regards of, they know about it. I've told them that the people going there, they said they would look at it, but I've not had anything back from them. So I'll chase with work again. The contacts, I don't know if they're still left. There's a mass exodus going on in Neville Rail at the moment, so.
Yes, I guess so.
So yeah, I'll continue to look into that.
Thank you. Any other questions on section 6? Right, in that case, let's move on to resolutions in section 7. And the first is that there is an offer to locate a clothing bank on village premises. Let me just pull this up. And you've been in contact with this organisation?
Yeah, only to acknowledge what they do and to say that I'll pass it on to the parish council to see if the parish council have an appetite to join in. As effectively, they lead banks for clothing, and they will pay so much per kilogram back for whatever clothing is collected.
The only thing I would say is that a lot of charities do clothing collections in the village. Are we cutting off a source of income, just being devil's advocate here? I know the air ambulance do, and some of the others do SACs.
Yeah, they do,
And I just don't know whether that's something that we should.
We're making too spread out, not getting very quickly.
Yeah, I feel that we should support charities. So by putting the clothing banks in there, are we, because it's so much easier, isn't it, just to go and stick it in a clothing bag?
Yeah, I mean, if I can just make a general comment. I mean, these boxes are relatively unsightly. You typically have them stuck in the corner of a car park at Tesco's or somewhere like that. And I can't see that we would want them, for example, outside the village hall or anywhere like that. The only place I can think on our premises would potentially be at the sports ground. But if we were to suggest that, I do think the sports ground or the cricket club and the sports group would have to say that they were happy for it to go there and even to identify the location for it and probably to take the receipts for it. But I think Kay makes a good point as to whether we even want to put it there, given that we have a number of clothing collections in the village anyway. Does anyone else want to comment on this?
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
It'd be money for the village though, isn't it? It's not individual.
Well, the school effectively does this. It collects up all the clothes and it then gets money for it.
Yeah. And I don't know, I just feel that we should be supporting charities and that how much would it make the village? It's all very nice to get money for the village, but actually charities need it these days, don't they?
How many kilos of pullovers you make to make 30 quid? You'll need a hell of a lot of pullovers and things like that material.
Okay,
Well, I
it
think
seems
so.
to me, unless anyone wants to speak differently, that the feeling is that we would respond that we don't feel that we would like to proceed because the village already supports a lot of clothing collections, particularly to provide financial support to our school, but also to the air ambulance and various other charities. And therefore we would not want to proceed. Is that broadly what everyone feels? Yeah. Okay.
Sure. There's not. I just say mine to the school.
Right.
More to Tesco.
If I can move on to 7.2 then, consider a tree survey. We've had a couple of frights in the village about trees. Well, one of them did come down anyway, as we know. That tree came down in one side. And we had a little bit of a fright a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, when we thought some others were going to come down. And it did occur to me that it might be an idea to walk the village, looking at specimens that we thought ought to have preservation orders on them, and then apply to Milton Keynes Council to get them put on. Now, I do have, and this isn't just because he's not here, I do have a volunteer for this, which is Dave Hines. I thought Ian might also be interested, and certainly would walk around if it was necessary to someone else as well. But with that broadly, I mean, it seems a good idea. Yeah.
The other question obviously has been going on with all the noise going over in the station yard. And he's nearly cleared the lot now. He hasn't touched the two at the top at the moment. But
Yeah.
we could put a TPR on something like that, ASB, it'd be done good.
Yeah, well, actually, his planning permission requires him to retain the chestnut and something else, I can't remember what it was. There were the two big trees.
I think it's more than that. I think it's smaller trees as well. It's not just those two.
Yeah, there are a number of.
There are a number of trees that is not meant to touch. The planning commission specifically says you do not touch these trees.
The other thing is it's propped up, and David Scott's and I both on it. We've had 3 more branches that come on at David Scott's. And the
Yeah.
branch that hangs out this way, down the side of the grass, if that won't take much more wind to blow that and break that branch up and go whizzing out in the road, we need to do something about that.
That's very discussed.
Come,
Whereabouts?
just up here.
By
Okay.
opposite 10 North Street, which is David Scott's house, but by the church.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, this Leo Hawkes did say he would do that. If you, I haven't got a pen, but if you remind me, give me the pen rather than remind me, I'll ask Leo Hawkes.
Because we're going to have
10
to
North
make,
Street tree, or opposite 10 North Street.
well, the lower branch is hanging right down now. And
Okay.
with this lack of rain, it's going to make them more
Yeah.
brittle.
Well, okay, I will do that. That is, if you like, an aside
Yeah.
to the idea of identifying trees for TPOs. Are we all in agreement on
Yeah.
that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's great. To consider any actions to repair or replace equipment at the fish ponds play area. Now, Steve did send me, which I put up on the in your pack.
210 pages long.
Yeah, is it really that much?
That is, yes.
But it is the inspection reports for the equipment there. And broadly, it seems to say that it's pretty much okay. They've got some low, like if you go to the last page, whoops. If you go down there, it does identify, I can't find it now, but anyway, some low priority work that needs to be done. Like many of us down there with children, grandchildren, certainly there is a basket swing
Yeah.
which has gone.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know where it has gone. I think Milton Keynes Council may have taken it away, but I think it went quite a long time
Long
ago.
time. Long time.
Yeah, and we
That's
bought
what
that,
the
and
first one
we bought that. I mean, just, I'm not sure, Ian was on the council, but I'm not sure anyone else was actually at the time when we did that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you who opened the new equipment, Andy Dransfield. There's a blast from the past, isn't there? Yeah, because he was.
Don't start sweating, Lord.
So it's quite a while ago that
It's
we
a long
paid, and
time.
it was like a 50 grand's worth of equipment we put in there.
Yeah.
So if you could try and find out, I don't know if it's still Philip Snell.
Yes.
Yeah, what's happening with that? And I think the 2 at least of the seats on the roundabout are cracked to the point where I think they would
Yeah.
pinch people.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you could ask him whether he is likely to repair that, otherwise, could you get a quote, Steve, for us to do it? Because I don't know where. I would also add that in the report, it does say that the ground treatment, which is those rubberized
Yeah.
mats, they are all, I mean, they're
Oh,
basically
yeah.
relaying, don't they? I don't know whether we could, again, you might ask Philip whether it's listed in the report as to be done, but whether they are actually going to do it or not.
But I think it's low priority.
Yeah, it's all low priority.
You see, we still have £1,500 S106 money for leisure and what leisure and something else.
Yeah.
From,
Well, we got it extended to cover the adult exercise equipment as well,
We did.
so it covers all that sort of
So
thing.
I don't know. I've written to Paul Van Geek asking whether we actually need to actually buy stuff with it or whether we can use it for maintenance and repair. Because I mean, it's effectively capital spend and maintenance and repair doesn't come under capital. So
Yeah, I mean, the answer to
There is
that,
something, isn't there? They've changed their tune on that, I think.
well, certainly in Jonathan Robinson's story, you could use it for what is called revenue expenditure as well as capital expenditure. I remember actually him saying, you know, the money in the school, for example, could even be used to pay for a teacher's salary, you know, just things like that. But I'm not sure whether the new mod of Milton Keynes have the same rules. They've got a much more bureaucratic way of administering it, but we could try.
Yeah, I mean, I've written to Paul Van Geet, so if we take that as the current situation, I'll await his response, and then I'll come back and.
But if you could get some quotes in so that we could move ahead with it, because I do think, A, we've been a long time without a basket swing. Two, I actually personally think that the two of those seats on the roundabout are dangerous, and that really ought to be here.
That's the reason I'm coming to. How do we stand as a parish council with public liability if somebody hurts himself on that back? Something. That's what are we insured and covered for?
We are insured.
We are insured, and Milton Keynes do the statutory inspection, and technically it's their area. Even though we bought the equipment, it's their area.
If they're saying it's safe, then it's definitely.
Yeah, would you remember Bullington End Road, one round about, they took it out because they thought it was dangerous, didn't they?
Yeah. Okay, well, look, if you could get some quotes in, and then we can consider it. Hopefully we'll have had a response from Philip Snell, from Paul Van Geet, by the time of our next parish council meeting. Yeah, we can perhaps make a decision then. Okay, if we're going to spend some money.
Should we do that?
Okay. 7.4.
I know it has been suggested that replace the chestnut tree, that might be one off on this, but I was thinking maybe something for the play area would be nice. I don't know whether they have children, grandchildren, or whatever, but you know the little houses like they have in Stelsey Forest or something like that. Just because that, or any just something in fish ponds.
I mean, it is true that if you go, as I'm sure you do, around play areas, the standard of play areas has increased just dramatically in the last 10 years. I mean, the stuff they have in them now is fantastic. Just for, I just ought to introduce it for people watching. Basically, a long-term villager passed away actually during the COVID period, but not from COVID. And his widow asked for donations rather than flowers. And it has now got £1,000, which she's brought to the parish council and said she would like to do something. Now, her preference actually was to pay for training on the AED defibrillators. And she'd actually spoken to Richard Bradley about, whether anything was needed there. But Richard has actually said that at the moment, they do not need funds for that. And actually, we were going to provide training. I think he was doing it for free anyhow, but training on the defibrillators. So I think it's a matter of turning to something else. She absolutely did not want a bench because there are quite a lot of benches around now. So it is, Dave Hines suggested, as I think some of you saw, that we might put in a tree. Now, Milton Keynes Council have put in a pin, to replace that tree. I'm not quite sure what that means. I could find out from Leo.
Yes.
Because the trouble with Milton Keynes Council is it could be an awful long time in the coming. But there is that. But even then, the trees, as we know, are about 300 quid, aren't they?
That's the only kind of diddly thing. If you're going to put a tree in, you want a decent tree. I was having a word with someone and most of the trees come from Italy, Greece, all imported, decent trees. You're going to be paying £1,500 to £2,000 for a decent tree to go. And then it's got to be looked after.
Yeah.
But personally, I mean, if you want to replace the tree up there, I think the public ought to, some people have been still kicking up about it. At the end of the day, Leo, the tree gentleman from Milton Keynes, I showed him the tree with the mushrooms there, and if you went and looked at it when David Scott was up there when they were cutting it down, and it was all pulpy and going wrong, it was dying. And Leo, the tree man from Milton Keynes, said if the southerly wind caught that over the bridge, that would be on those GPO boxes or the telephone and the internet, And how many people would love it then? No television, TV. But at the end of the day, you've got to pay a lot of money to get a decent tree. It's no good to me. It's no good putting some of these little matchstick things in.
Okay, well, look, we could look at that, or we could look at,
Just think it's nice that it's something that the village can use, and that's why I was thinking of something in the play. That was all. I just think it's a really nice legacy, that. Maybe, can we just put the ideas to her and then let her choose?
that's a fair thing to say.
Yeah, because I think it really has to be down to her, what
If we do something
would she
wrong,
like?
Yeah, are there any other suggestions?
So what we've got,
A tree, because I mean, I think Ian's right, almost certainly the tree that Milton Keynes puts in will be a titchy one,
Second.
and it won't grow to substance in, well, see me out anyway, I'm sure. Or something in the play area.
fish
And
and
up to it.
Yeah.
that was the funniest thing about when they took the tree down. They left all those big blocks up there, didn't they? And David Scott went up there and saw him, and he took a couple home. The chap said, "Best of luck to you." And some lady went the next night and cleared the whole lot. But the main reason was Milton Keynes didn't really want to take it. It was diseased and didn't really want to take it back to their yard.
Steve, I was thinking something imaginary play, like little house or play, like mud kitchen or something like that.
I know I don't get saying this, but what I have observed out the window of the gym is a little kind of trampoline area in the ground, which is massively popular.
They're very popular.
The
and
kids
they're less dangerous than
absolutely, the
normal
kids
trampolines,
absolutely
yeah.
love them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So whether you get that for £1,000.
It probably wouldn't, but again, potentially there's 1,500.
Yeah,
But as,
Yeah, that's
as you said, put it to the lady as another
yeah, I
suggestion.
think it should be her, you know, I mean, she knows her husband, and it's like, well, if they had grandchildren, for instance, that they loved watching them play, then that would be a really nice memoriam for him. It's just like a nice legacy to actually
Okay,
just what,
Or-
yeah.
well, play
So
equipment, play
just
equipment, and we
just
can then,
something
we
down
can
there.
then.
Just maybe
Go on,
make
go
us a
on.
couple of suggestions to her and see what she thinks.
Right, okay, I will do that, before the next meeting. I'm sure we'll see you next, right. Thank you for that. Russell, 7.5.
Yeah, the Ducklings preschool have lost a couple, 2 or 3 prospective children because at the moment they're unable to provide the full 30 hours of childcare, which is the vouchers that parents get. They do 26 hours, so they're basically 4 hours short. The only days, well, they do Tuesday and Thursday till 3 o'clock, and the other days they do till 12:30. The problem is on the Mondays and Fridays from November to, I think it's June or July, the school have it from 1 o'clock, the hall from 1 o'clock till 3 o'clock for their PE lessons. And then every alternate Tuesday on the every alternate Wednesday, we have the community village tea party. So all of those are quite important things. There isn't no other way of them being able to increase their hours to the required 30. I have suggested that they might consider the sports and the cricket pavilion. But it is quite a long walk for little kids to go there. And
What, for the PE lesson?
no, for the preschool.
I mean, the school can't move there.
No.
I think the school did look at moving there, and it didn't, it wasn't of the right standard for Oxford or whatever. And in any case, it's a relatively small area for 20 children or whatever it is that they've got. But I think the offset consideration would also apply.
It would apply to the preschools as well.
Preschool, but I mean, if they want to have an inspection, we'll see. I just can't see otherwise how it fits. And I do think we have got an obligation to the school. And I really am very keen on these community teas. It's really picking up quite nicely now.
What time does preschool start in the morning?
8:30.
30.
What about, so could they extend the other way and start a bit earlier?
I think it's more to do with the convenience of the parents picking the kids up again.
Okay, so yeah, they want them to be there.
Rather than the start time, it's the end time. I have suggested to John Walks as the owner that we have a discussion later on in the month. Yeah, so
Because if it's just to do with the fact that you get vouchers, because you get the childcare vouchers
Yeah,
for 30 hours and they
yeah.
actually want to use those
Yeah.
30 hours, maybe they could open earlier, 7:30. So when people are going to work, they've got their children up here at 7:30, because a lot of
I
people do
don't-
start that early.
I don't think it's a question of the parents wanting to use the full 30 hours. I think they want to use the full 30 hours at times that are suitable
Yeah.
for them.
Just a thought,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I mean, we do as much as we can to try and support the
Yeah.
preschool, but I just can't see, this is squaring a circle really, isn't it? Okay, are we all pretty much agreed? We just can't.
Do we find another way of doing it?
Yeah,
Simple as that.
yeah. I mean.
Can they come up with a solution
Yeah.
based around what's in the village?
Well, there isn't anything else suitable, is there?
Okay, right. We're all done on that, yeah. And the last item on the resolutions is I was approached indirectly on behalf of a lady who was offering to clean these two bus shelters regularly, I think every couple of weeks, for a few pounds, which I think she was looking at just a little bit of pocket money and to do it. Now, I did know, funnily enough, when we got the Best Kept Village award, I did notice that one of the criticisms was that our bus shelters weren't swept. Whether she'd be prepared to do the other one up at the other end of North Street or not, I don't know. But we could ask. But John Keane has done these from time to time, but he lives quite a long way away. It's a bit much to do it. And I was actually going to suggest to Steve that we might consider exploring whether Tom Ladyman would want to do it. But I mean, if this lady wants to do it, I wouldn't mind. Anyway, Kay.
As soon as the wind blows, though, it goes back in again.
Well,
I mean, you get
it
leaves,
doesn't,
you
it
get
It
doesn't.
dust,
doesn't depend
yeah.
what time of year, sometimes of the year you haven't got to do it much. You'd have to do it through every 4 weeks, whereas this time of year when the wind and the leaves coming up, yes, it's going to do what's fortnight.
Yeah.
Well, Bill was saying, if she wants to do it, she does all three. And B, how much money is it going to involve? And it won't be cash now,
Yeah.
whoever the lady is.
Well, I think I would, if we were supportive of this, I would ask Steve to liaise and find out what's involved. And indeed, make sure it's done.
Like
in a
I
lawful
did
way.
with Tom Lady.
Yeah.
I'll ask Jane what she thinks.
And the other thing is, while we're on the bus shelter then, is if our TM are coming round, the tree above the bus shelter across the road.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Needs doing, because that's going to be another good wind or two. That is going to take the slate off the
Slates
roof.
off, yeah, that's right. Because I was looking at those the other day,
They definitely want to trim it.
I'm just not sure there's a need, to be honest. Sweet.
Well, they do at times.
It is.
You get by North Street there, when the kids sit in it, and with all the sweet wrappers and that everywhere.
That's different, but
Yeah.
leaves, I'm just
Well,
going
no,
to
but
blow back in again. But
Well-
I'm happy to go with whatever.
Yeah.
everyone else thinks on it.
I mean, shall we ask Steve to explore this
Yeah.
and see what would be involved? If it's a significant, I mean, within your, I'm sure it'll be within your financial limits anyway.
Yeah, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
We want to say, we either take out a relationship with her like we've got with Tom,
Yeah,
or we don't.
yeah,
I don't think I should be banging her out of the kind of if you let slush fund, that.
No, I wasn't suggesting that.
That's, so I'll ask Jane on it.
Okay, all right.
Very
Very good.
And then, as Ian said, I think we should ask her whether she'd be prepared to do all three.
Yeah. If she isn't, I mean, maybe Tom would be
Yeah.
prepared to do the other one. Not hugely mobile, but anyway. I think it'd be nice to have those, have the village cat meet. Right, if that's okay, you'll explore that. We're all happy for Steve to use his discretion on those. Yeah, not loads of money. Moving on then to section 8, the financial matters, the IFO payment schedule, if we could.
I did actually send it round. And it's on the short drive.
Is it? Oh, so it is.
I did that about 6:30.
Yeah.
It's the one that I've got, Steve, doesn't have the printing of the Castlethorpe News on.
Oh, did I not put that on? Well, in that case, Phil. Oh, no, I had that printed off, but I missed it off.
I've got the one that's in the Google Drive.
Yeah, that's the latest one, so we need to add that. It's £55.
So just so everyone knows, I've just done a new sheet. It's literally a single sheet of paper, but folded so it's 4 sides of A5. Just to let people know what's going on with things like the streetlights, the chestnut down the bottom there, because as you say, people come and say, what's happened? You know, who took that down, why, and all the rest. So I've just explained all that sort of stuff. Russell printed it up a little bit, and we're just getting the usual team, thank you very much, Kay and others, to distribute it probably the end of this week or during the course of next week. Right. Yes. You
Need to go through it.
well, let's just very quickly look at it. There's your usual clerk's expenses, 2 months worth. Landscaping, 2 months worth, because we've got 2 months because we didn't meet in August. Clearing the litter bins, a couple of bits of work up at the sports ground, expensive bits of work really, aren't they? But there we go.
Well, no, that's just general sports ground maintenance, grass cutting, hedge cutting, just cut all the hedges.
All right, okay. The cost of painting the white lines in South Street, which seems to be, the cars seem to be parking nicely in them,
There's
actually,
a
don't
few
they?
that have parked sort of in the middle of them, but that's going to always happen.
Yeah.
But no, it does seem to work.
Yeah, so that's created another 2 spaces, which is good. Weed spraying, refund equipment for, is this community equipment, Russell? Refunded receipts for village hall?
No, it's cleaning stuff.
Oh, cleaning stuff, right. Oh, yes.
On the Lawrence Chapman one, covering my backside, Lawrence didn't actually keep the receipts, and I had an exchange of emails with him and Dave Hyams. So I said, okay, well, we can't not give Lawrence the money back, but we have actually pointed out to him, please do keep receipts, because our auditor will always want to see them. And I have dropped the auditor a note saying if that particular payment is in the cross section come next audit, I won't be able to provide receipts for it. So from a backside covering thing, I've done that.
Okay. And then we've got some consumables.
I don't know what's going on with Viking, and I haven't had an invoice from them. Suddenly I got a letter from a debt recovery company saying that we hadn't paid two invoices end of last year, beginning of this. And I thought, I don't know what's going on. So I said I'd give them the money and I'd work out what was happening, but I need to speak to someone at Viking. Do you know, is Stacey actually ordering stuff from Viking still, Russell? Do you know?
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, it's a bit of a mess at the moment.
And sports courts deposit on the relaying the
Yeah, we've
tennis court.
already paid that. I did actually send an email around getting approval from Finance Committee.
Right, and then the usual standing items. So plus the £55 for the news sheets. Any questions? Okay, I'll propose. I need a second of Darren there, and all in favour. Yeah.
Ian and Russell, obviously.
Yeah. We've got one that's marked up with the extra bit in for the printing.
Are we expecting an increase when the fuel prices go up?
I've got him just beforehand, and we've got a couple of year contracts left, so that it'll hit us eventually, but the next couple of years we should be okay.
Very good, well done.
Sign it.
You can't sign it. You can't sign it. So the next item is just the financial report for. Yeah, Steve will need that copy back.
Yeah.
Right, so moving on to the next item, which is the financial report for 2021-22, which I think, has it actually gone on the website, Russell, yet, or?
No, what did I supposed to do on the website?
Well, no, I mean, we haven't asked Russell to do it yet. The idea was to get the parish council to actually note it and then come on the website.
Yeah. So this is basically the list of expenditure by the parish council for the last financial year. We have to do an annual report, which is formally approved at actually our June meeting. But this extract from it wasn't, because of pressure of work, wasn't available in July, the 4th of July, which was the last council meeting.
It was actually pressure of holiday, as I told you.
Oh, so you were. Well, I didn't like to say that. Pressure of holiday. So this is basically just explaining how we spent the money that we all contributed to in 2021-22 and go on the website. Now, councillors, are there any comments that you would like to make about any of the expenditure?
You got a copy of this,
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a hiccup when I was reading about the projects at the end, but there are only two things: the village hall garden and new benches were the only two sort of capital type expenses that we had, which are shown there. Okay, in that case, I'll ask Russell to put that up at his convenience. Any correspondence has been received? Steve, no? Any other business?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things. The first one is the South Street, Anglian Water appear to have finished their work, but they've still got the road closed.
Yeah.
However, somebody has moved one of the codes, so it's free now, but it's only one lane free.
Okay.
I don't want to move the signs myself because of possible liability.
I don't know what home if you
Yeah.
And
secretly.
another item, the interruption I had before was my neighbour telling me that those youths that ran past the village hall shouting and gone into the pub, started smashing stuff, and they've also been in the buffer room as well.
Has he reported to the police?
No, he hasn't.
He should do. He really should do.
Would you?
But he wanted somebody to tell Simon Hill about it.
Well, tell the police. Tell the police. Yeah.
Are these village boys?
No, never seen them before.
Okay.
Well, they're in the pub now, is that tonight?
No, this was
While we were setting up, some lads came by, but they were noisy, but they were just noisy, and it's not unreasonable. Well, I do think you ought to. You really ought to. Actually, you should have done it at the time. I mean, it's a bit late now. Is there anything else you had?
No.
Okay.
So I did ask what had happened to the bin that was going to be put on the sports field next to the bench that was, I sent this.
It's on the clerk's report.
Oh,
It's a to-do. We've
Oh,
got,
okay, that's fine. So it's there.
what we've got to do is something that we haven't got round to yet in the bin at Castlethorpe Close. We want to buy all the bins together because delivery is expensive because spaces are very heavy. And I mean, the delivery is as much as the bins. So we don't want to be buying odd bins, we want to buy them all together. Now, the Castlethorpe Close bin that we wanted to put there, we went to Milton Keynes Council and said, can we put a bin here? We believe that it should be on your regular clearing route, and there's been one there before. And they said no, and that's where it stopped. I need to talk to Russell about that, and so that's where the bin
Who
situation.
did you speak to there? Kevin Wilson?
The gate as well, at the other end of the sports field, the really heavy one that goes into, I never remember it, no, not Castlethorpe.
Which one called?
Yes,
Yeah, the post is.
no, the whole gate, you have to lift it, and it's a 5-bar gate. This is the one that I picked up on before. You have to actually lift it, because it actually marks the surface, and you can only get it open by about that much. Which must be helpful for people with prams.
So this is Close?
No, the other end.
Lodge Farm Court, so.
Lodge Farm Court.
So the gate into the sports ground, the post is.
Yeah, but not that, I know
We're
that
not
one
talking
is.
about that gate.
Okay, so what I was talking about is the one that you go through that gate, turn left, as though you're going to Castle Field, and then on the right-hand side, the steps or a ramp that goes up into Lodge Farm Court. That 5-bar gate, for a very, very long time, has been very difficult to open, and I reported it quite a while ago. But
Yeah, I think
maybe they got a bit mixed up.
I mean, I
with which one
absolutely
they-
agree with you, it does need doing. I
Yeah.
think it did get confused with the gate.
What we do,
With the other gate there.
Okay, so Ian, you know,
Oh, no, you go up the steps into Lodge Farm Court.
Yeah.
there's a 5-bar gate.
There's a ramp.
It's a small, it's not a big,
It's not a
big
ramp.
gate.
It's not a
a-
5-bar gate, it's a.
Well, it is
Well, it is
5
5-bar, but it's not
It's got
full
5
width.
But traditionally, you think of a 5-bar gate, it's a
Yeah.
full width gate, but it's
It's a
pedestrian gate. But
Very similar to the one down here that goes opposite the shop.
Yeah.
can I just say that another long-standing action we've got is Michael Lever gave us a quote to actually prop the fence and rail head, post and rail.
Post and rail
fencing.
sports ground.
And Ian raised quite rightly raised it, he thought that he was doing too much. So we were gonna actually go up there and have a look to see what actually needed
We
doing.
need to go and have a look.
Now the other thing that needs doing is the gate that goes into the sports ground is the
Doesn't
post.
close, yeah.
The post is
Yeah.
gone. It's nearly as bad as the one at Castlethorpe, which has been done now. So I think the action here is for Ian and myself to meet with Michael Weaver up at the sports ground and get a quote.
Get it sorted, get it done.
And we can bring something back to the next meeting. So if Ian and myself take that action.
Yeah, please do.
And I've got one
Incidentally,
more.
can I say, what a good job Michael did on this gate post down.
Well, what annoyed me immensely, husband and wife went through there with the dog and they just threw it, he played the thing, wrap thing, they unhooked it and just threw it open.
Yeah.
And I
left it
thought,
open.
I nearly went over and had a few words, but I thought, he's a bit too big a bloke for me, so. But,
You want
no,
Michael's dog?
that was furiously some people on that when that started to rain.
Yeah.
Furiously.
Right, let's go on, any other business?
Just one, sorry. So during this winter, some people in the village are going to find it quite hard. Older people not wanting to put the heating on and things like that. Is there any way that we can just check that people are okay? That, they're not sitting freezing in their homes and things like that, but for our more vulnerable residents? It's going to be a difficult time for everybody, and there are people who are going to be afraid to put their heating on.
And they're going to be afraid to do a fidget though, that's the trouble.
Absolutely, so I don't know whether we can get some sort of scheme going where you just go and check on a neighbour, or just make sure that if you do know anybody that they're okay.
Well, I think you would have to do it by almost a little advertising campaign, you know, kind of
Right.
Facebook thing. Look after your,
Yeah.
could you look after, keep an eye on your neighbour? I mean, I don't know what's going to happen now, whether we will get.
It's not going to
Yeah,
get any
no.
better than it is now, and there are already people who,
Yeah.
I mean, our numbers have already doubled.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a matter of looking at whether we can do something on Facebook. Perhaps when you get back, Russell, you could have a look at, perhaps Kate herself could work out some wording and so on.
I just thought that,
The campaign, yeah.
you know,
Look
we're a
after your
village
neighbour.
community, and I think that's a very community thing to do.
Yeah, Okay.
I thought I'd circulated things on this, so that I don't know whether Milton Keynes Council got any initiative of this sort, look after, for actually on a kind of wider level in the village. I mean, as a village, it's better to look after our own, but if Milton Keynes Council were actually engaged in any programme to
They do
that.
keep sending around such initiatives.
I'm sure it's okay.
I haven't seen anything like
yeah.
Okay.
If we could leave it to Kay and Russell to look at something in a couple of weeks. Right, Ian.
Yes, at the last meeting I wasn't there, and it was, you discussed about a dog pen and a planning commission, which I didn't know who it's on. It's on my college's land, but who put in for it, people were asking.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we've discussed this before, and somebody's mentioned it again only last week, is there's a dog pen which has not happened. Bill said that the application's been withdrawn, and the one down Walton Road. So they're using that dog pen, and they've got no planning permission. Any time after that, you can use it 28 days a year. You don't need it, but that's being used regular at Walton Road. And somebody threw a thing at me the other day, what have you done about it?
Well, there are
I've
three.
I've mentioned it before, is that is not a proper entrance with a curb with it, because the stones are coming out onto Walton Road and flying in the motors, because the first person that done it 4 months ago, the stone went through his windscreen. I know I don't like the bloke, and he don't like me, but he come and told me because he knew I'd say something. And the thing is now, is if we're letting one dog pen go through with planning permission, what about the other ones?
Well, there are three, aren't there? There's one down by the dead.
Yeah.
There's one going over the railway bridge and down towards Cosgrove Park.
Yeah, that's the second one, the other week.
And there's another one going up near the Enhanslope that I missed because I do a search on Castlethorpe for planning applications. And that was, what's it called? It's not Castlethorpe postal address, it's Home Cross.
Down Home Cross.
Home Cross, that's
Yeah.
the other side of.
Yeah,
Oh,
so, yeah, but it's still in Castlethorpe Parish.
Mm.
That one got missed, but I'm not sure. I thought that we considered them. I can't remember.
We did
Road-
consider the one across the railway.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, the one across the railway bridge was approved, but Ian is talking about one down by Windy
Yeah,
Hill.
that was the first one.
Okay, that first one, the parish council did not raise any particular objection on that, or raise an objection, and I thought it went off to Milton Keynes Council. Ian rang me a week or so ago, and asked what was happening, and I pulled it up on the planning portal, and it was marked as withdrawn. Now, usually what happens there, I can't find it immediately or quickly at the moment, unfortunately, but usually what happens when something's withdrawn is it's just because it's going to be resubmitted, and that's what I would expect. If it is resubmitted, Ian has raised some points, which I think are legitimate, about ensuring that there are hand washing facilities,
Well,
that the entrance is all right and that sort of thing. And if it comes before us, I think we probably would make those comments. If it is operating without a planning permission, which seems to be the case, then, you know, after a decent interval, we would want to go back and say, please, what's happening?
Because I've asked somebody that's got one in Northamptonshire, or 2 people in Northamptonshire, and they're not bothered. They've given permission, but it's not full time. They have to reapply after every 2 years.
Yeah.
In Ardley Vale, you'll get your planning permission, You can have a portaloo there, you've got hand washing facilities, and where you put your dog food. And that's ours without, and they're quite strong on it. And I know 3 people, I'm talking to somebody morning in the Marsh show, and they come from over that side, and they said they've had right ups and downs with some of them they've had. I'm just going on what other people have bought to learn.
Well, what's the outcome on that? Is saying that they haven't actually got planning permission because they've withdrawn
We've not done any planning application
it.
from
So
them.
do we know for a fact that they're actually,
Yes, they're using it as car up there the other day, somebody come past and said they're still using it.
so isn't that where planning enforcement come in?
Well, it would be if you're going to go that far.
No, we don't need to go that far, we just need to, if we're going to allow somebody with plan, somebody's had the decency to apply for proper planning permission on non-houses, and you agreed last month, not a problem. But we've discussed the other one before, and we've got an application coming forward, but we've never seen the application come forward.
No, I mean, I've just called up the map of planning applications, and there's nothing showing for that site now at all. Which is obviously because the planning application has been withdrawn. I mean, it might be something you could just check with Joe Payne, what has happened. You notice that it's been withdrawn. You know, is anything happening? Not as an enforcement matter, but as a liaison or the planning body. That might be less confrontational.
So Joe, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on other business?
Just a reminder about you and I both noticed it the other day, the little library wants some.
Repairs, yes.
Now, I know that Becky Hall has now
Yeah.
left the village.
Who's that?
Sorry,
Which one?
Becky Hall. She used to live in North Street.
Oh, they're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's gone back up north.
Last time I spoke to her, she was getting the gentleman that built it to come and give her a quote.
Yeah, that's right. But I don't believe he came back. She sent me an email just before she went off. She has handed it over. I won't say to whom publicly, but she has handed it over. And I expect that person will be progressing basically the repair of it, because it doesn't need doing. Okay, are we all finished then?
Well, no, that's happened. I mean, I can perhaps go and have a look, I've got plenty of board, etc., and see what they do with it.
Yeah, it was artistically designed.
I'm an artist. I'm artistic. I can bring them up for the
Okay, next meeting is the 3rd of October, Monday the 3rd of October. So we'll declare this meeting closed and thank you all for coming.
I've got plenty of bows to hold together.
I'll now switch off the live stream.
The other thing is,